think I'm centered. Let's see. Let's run with that. All right, so today is the day we're doing the mixing video. This is probably the most requested video. But yeah, if you haven't watched the melody video or the drum video, be sure to go watch that. I will card both of them here, like one right after another, starting now or whatever. And yeah, I know what you came here for, mixing tutorial. I don't wanna plug anything or anything. We'll do that in the outro. So let's just get started. We'll start with mixing, and then we'll do mixing, mastering, and then arranging. We'll do that. First step for mixing though, you need a Capri Sun Roaring Waters fruit punch. You need that. If you don't have this, I can't guarantee that your mix is gonna end up industry standard or just as good as it could be with a Roaring Waters. So so here is where we left off. This is the beat that we have so far. I'll just play that real quick. Pretty basic, nothing too crazy, just kind of a beat. Let's just get straight into the mixing. I showed you guys how to route all of your things here to a mixing track, but in case you don't want to go back and watch other videos, if you just click on these little rectangles and press Control L, it'll give it a mixing channel, and it'll name it so you don't have to be all confused about what goes where. And if you want to do multiple, you can hold down Control and just drag, or you can do Control Shift and then click different ones. So yeah, just a little reminder. But this is how we got all of this in here. First thing I'm gonna do now, I don't know, I've kind of developed my own mixing process. I don't know if anybody else does this, honestly. I've never seen it done before. It's kind of like, well, it's kind of like gain staging, but I have a different method about going if you don't know what gain staging is when all of your sounds are like quiet and then you boost them in the master, which is ideal for a cleaner master. So that's what I like about it. But I'm pretty sure gain staging is a little more in depth. It's like cutting a bunch of frequencies and stuff as well. But I don't really do that. I used to do that. I used to cut all these frequencies for each channel, and oh my gosh, so annoying. But yeah, I'm pretty sure my mixes are even better now that I don't do that. I just don't stress about it. But it's kind of a form of gain staging in the sense that after we mix it, I just highlight all of them and turn them down. So in regular gain staging, you will just mix it quietly. So you'll turn the volume up and you will just mix where it's quiet and then turn it up in the master. But I just don't, it's just a lot easier for me to mix it like this, highlight all of them, and then drag them down, because I'm like 90% sure that they drag them down proportionately like that, which is good enough for me. I don't really care. I've never had any problems with it, so that's what I do. But we'll just get started step by step. So I didn't mix, but I did the stereo separation and put all these effects on the melody. I usually do effects during the beat making process, whether I'm making a melody or beats or anything. A reverb, delay, all that stuff is just gonna go into that process. So mixing is literally, for me, it's just leveling, messing with maybe some frequencies and maybe some stereo separation and panning and stuff. What I usually do is I start with the 808 and I completely mono this. So I take this little circle that's either pink or purple. I don't know what it is for like default FL, but you just drag it all the way to the right. So this is going to be mono and this is going to be stereo. All the way to the left is stereo, all the way to the right is mono. And then this big knob right here is going to be panning right and left. Now I'm not really sure what these do. I've never really tested them, but 808s and basses, I do make a little more mono. So the basses, I won't make completely mono like I do the 808s. And some 808s, I don't completely mono. It depends on what effects and what layers they have on them. But like basses and stuff, I tend to make a little more mono. Pads, I make pretty stereo. Leads, I make just a tiny bit stereo. Counter melodies, I just make a little more stereo than that. And like main instruments are a little more stereo than that. It's kind of just a personal taste, and it depends on the beat. And you can kind of just get a better feel for it if you're wearing headphones. You definitely don't have to be. I much rather mix on my monitors, just ear fatigue and all that. and also 10-inch sub really, it hits the spot. It's really nice. So I usually start with the 808 and I just solo each one. So start with the 808 here. And I usually like to have it peak around in between these two lines right here. So around 6 to 0 in between there. I think that's what it is, yeah. So I usually have it peak around 3 just because there's 808s like this one that has like a big, like a loud noise at the beginning. I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I mean. It's kind of like a kick effect almost. And this one is really noticeable. So this might affect the master a little bit later on, but this is kind of just a reference point for everything else going forth. But I usually like to have it hit between 6 to 0. I usually just had it, or I used to have it where it peaked at 6, but I don't know, I just had some, I had some trouble with that. And it also just depends on the 808. Because like I said, some have that peak right at the beginning and then it's quiet the rest of the way, kind of like this one is. So you wouldn't want it to peak the same level where one that's just loud peaks, because it doesn't have that little jolt. So the main part of the 808 would be just as loud as the peak of the other 808, so they wouldn't sound the same even though they're peaking on paper the same level, if that makes sense. But you just gotta play around with it a little bit. I'm gonna have it just about here. Another thing is you can kind of tell where the peak versus the like actual body of the 808 resides just in how the levels hit. So see how it's really quick to hit up here and then it kind of hangs around here a little bit. This is kind of what I look for as the body of the 808, like the main part. So you can look there to try and get more consistency if you have multiple 808s or whatever. Like I said, you're just gonna have to mess around with it. Then from there, I usually go to the clap or the snare, like the main clap or snare. And then I pan that a little bit to the right, just a little bit will do. And then I just have this hitting below the 808, just a little bit below the 808. Now, I do want to say that per sound, this can change. Like the no lie snare is just loud. No matter how much you turn it down, it's always just loud. So, I don't know why I snapped there, but I thought it'd be cool. So, it won't be uncommon to have a snare like down here. You know, or like a really bright clap. It won't be uncommon for that to happen. So, it just depends on the sound selection, and that goes for anything. I just use the 808 as a reference point. So, what I mean is now I'm not like setting fixed values. I just use the 808 hitting at that little range as the reference point, to where I'm going to level the other sounds. So this is a pretty bright clap, so I'm going to tuck it a little bit more. With that little pan to the right, someone told me, this is like just advice that I've liked to listen to. It's kind of like I imagine a drum set. So like hi-hats are going to go a little bit to the left, claps or snares are going to go a little to the right, open hats are going to go more to the left, counter snares and perks and whatever go to more to the right, and then sound effects and other perks and stuff that can kind of vary, but it just makes the beat more interesting and third dimensional rather than just everything hitting right in the middle. You know, it will have like you won't really notice it that much. But I promise it makes a pretty big difference in your mixes, just because it helps things stick out a little more, especially if you're wearing headphones. Now from the clap, I usually go to the hi-hats, and like I said, I pan this a little bit to the left. Now this is, all the rest of them are ones you're just going to have to hear. The 808 and the clap is like usually around the same volume every time, but since this has a lot of low notes, it has a lot of beef to it, and it can be pretty loud, but I think that sounds good. You don't want it too quiet though, because you still want that rhythm, that you still want that percussion to come through. You don't want it to just be all 808 or all 808 and clap, or you know, all percussion and no 808. You want it to be balanced, of course, but it depends on per beat, and you're just gonna have to mess around with it until you find what you like. So this is a counter snare, I believe, and I have this panned just a little more to the right, so it's not really even going to be noticeable. Like this is where you're getting noticeable and this is where you're getting very noticeable, but just a little bit more like that. and it's fine. You won't really even notice it. And if you want, you can use this right here as a guide. Like, oh man, that gap looks too wide. Turn it down a little bit. And now we have an impact open hat. Now for these, I don't really go to the left like I would with another open hat. Sometimes I do, but it just depends. Like, I have another open hat on this one, so I'm gonna do that one all the way to the, or more to the left. And then this one, I'm just gonna stereo, make it a little more stereo, and then just turn it down. That way it's just a little more in your ears rather than right here. It's a little more like right here, you know, it's a little wider and it comes through a little bit, especially contrasting with a more mono bass. I think that sounds pretty good. We might have to turn it up a little bit more. And then last we got the open hat. And like I said, all of these right here, I don't really have like a set range for. The 808 and the clap are just like reference points for me. Mainly the 808. I just like having the clap to where it's not in your ears, like hitting really hard and hurting your ears. That's pretty much the only standard I have for claps or snares. But 808s I just use as a reference point with that range that we were talking about earlier. Everything else is just kind of like, depends on the sound selection, depends on the beat. It depends on the bounce. It depends on what you want to shine and what you could just use more for feeling rather than hearing. A lot of factors go into it, and it's all just variable. It all ultimately just depends on what you're working on and your preference in general. So I've heard people that like to have blaring hi-hats, and they just turn the hi-hats up more than most people, and it's fine. It's fine. Honestly, most people overthink their mixes, and it's fine. The standard for mixing, I feel like, has gone down quite a bit to where some people don't even mix. They'll like level it in here and then throw a master on it, or sometimes they don't even throw a master on it. It's just, don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. This is what I like to do just because it's a little peace of mind. And also, I've experimented with a bunch of different mixing techniques, and this is what's working for me. This is what I like to do. It's pretty quick. It's pretty simple once you get it down, but it's not too simplified to where you're not going to just blend in with everybody else's mix. You know, you'll stick out a bit. Anyways, now that all the drums are mixed, I kind of mix the drums and the melody separate. The melody is already stereo shaped and leveled how I assume that I like it, because that's kind of how I left it. But just to check, we're just going to do a quick double check on the levels. We're just going to play the melody by itself and just adjust what we think needs to be adjusted. So all that I did, I just kind of noticed that it was a little bass heavy. I turned the bass down, and I noticed there was a lot more low to mid frequencies that are taken up by the main melody. So I just turned that down a little bit, and that let the top lines and the counters shine through a bit. I even pushed them a little bit more, and then I pushed this a little bit because it's kind of part of the main body, but it's not. If you watch the previous video, you would know what I'm talking about. It's just a little top line that was in the main melody, but I separated it to put effects on it. It's a long story, but yeah, this sounds good. And now I'm just gonna mute the bass, because once I pull this down, I'll pull the bass down with it. And the only thing is that whenever you pull the melody down, the bass can kind of get really quiet for some reason. So I'll probably re-level the bass according to the entire, once I turn everything down. But I'll show you when we get there. So now I literally just play the beat, and I turn the melody like I select the entire melody, all of the elements, all of the channels, and just turn it down to where the melody is not overpowering the beat and the beat's not overpowering the melody. Like I said, it's all variable. It doesn't really matter. Like there's no standard. It does matter, but there's no like standard, like my melody needs to be hitting at 6 decibels every time before I master. Like it doesn't, I've never done that, and it doesn't matter to me. Like all that, the specifics doesn't matter. I like just per beat, go by feeling, go trust your ears a little bit. And I've been pushing my melodies a little bit more recently because I've noticed in some of my mixes from the past few months my drums have been a little overpowering. So I just take note of that and I'll put the melody where I think it should go, and then I'll just push it a little bit because I know the drums might be a little overpowering. And if the melody is a little overpowering, it's not going to be as noticeable as the melody being super quiet and the drums being super overpowering. That's my personal opinion, though. I'm not an expert. But yeah, I'll just select the melody, play the entire beat, and just drop it down or move it up until I feel like they're mixed and meshed really well together. And it's as simple as that. I think that sounds great. And now I'm going to recheck the bass. Like I said, I would, because sometimes it gets really quiet. And I can push it a little bit more. And I think that sounds good. I don't want it to be too bass heavy, which I've also made the mistake of before, is really pushing a synth bass. But the reality is that once the drums drop out, the synth bass is going to be a lot more noticeable. Alright, now I'm going to mute the synth bass so the 808 and the synth bass aren't hitting at the same time. And I'm literally just going to highlight everything, boom, like that. And I'm going to turn it down to where it's not clipping on the master, and then some. So usually around 6, 9 to 3 area, somewhere around there. I used to be super stickler about getting it to 6 every time, but I realized once I'm turning it up in the master, it doesn't really matter how much I have to turn it, how much or how little I need to turn it down. It's going to end up at the same volume anyways. So I just get it to where it's not clipping, around 9 to 3 range, because I like to have a little wiggle room between clipping and not clipping. So I'll just do that. So somewhere around here. This is clipping and there's a big gap right here. I'll turn it down a little more just to be a little safer. But once I do that, I'll literally just go to the master and I'll come into this limiter. Now, this is a limiter preset that I made. Literally all I did, this is what your limiter is going to look like whenever you boot it up. Fruity limiter, nothing crazy. Fruity limiter. It's going to look like this. You're just going to turn all these knobs down. Just turn them all the way down. This is a noise gate. Don't even mess with that. This is side chaining and all the compression, all that stuff. Don't worry about that. For mastering, all you need to worry about is this knob right here and this knob right here. You don't even need to worry about this knob if you don't want to. It's just personal taste for me. But this knob is what you're gonna be messing with here. So now that it's below clipping, all we're gonna do is turn it back up. Now you might be wondering why you turn it down just to turn it back up. The idea behind gain staging is it's like nothing is clipping before you master it. So you get a cleaner master. You don't get any distortion or anything in your master, or unintentional distortion, I should say. Because I'll show you how to get like that warm, distorted sound that is on a lot of underground beats right now, to where you can pull it off and control exactly how much distortion you want, rather than it just being a sloppy master where like the 808's peaking and you can't figure out why your master sounds like garbage. That's the idea behind gain staging, is just whenever it's this quiet, nothing's peaking, it's going to be the cleanest frequency. It's not going to be distorted. It's going to be super clean, and that's the idea, is turning everything up with clean frequencies to get a clean master, if that makes sense. So I'll literally just come in here into master, just play the beat again, and right here you see this line is clipping. So this is going to be 0 dB. I put this in finger quotes because I don't know if that's the exact relation, but this is kind of how I view it, because pretty much anything over this line is clipping. It'll cut it off. So I just slowly turn this knob up until I'm getting a little bit of distortion, and then I'll turn it down just underneath that. You may have seen this technique with Internet Money, like Cody, I think made a video using this technique. That's kind of where I got it from, Nick Mira and Cody. They did this. I don't know if they still do it. Like I said, it doesn't really matter. You can use Soft Clipper, Fruity Limiter, Ozone 9, which I used to use and overcomplicate my masters by doing all this crazy stuff. It's up to you, and you can use Maximus, anything really. It all kind of does the same thing. But yeah, we're gonna play this and slowly turn it up a bit. Okay, so visually you can see that the white turns purple once it starts getting clipped. And honestly, I don't pay attention to these like little stems that come out from like super punchy 808s. Sometimes your snares or claps will end up in there. I don't really pay attention to that too much. I mainly pay attention to this right here. The meaty part of your 808 that we were talking about earlier. That's kind of what I pay attention to. And you can hear it. You can hear the beat crush underneath the beef of the 808 when it's too loud. So this is about where I would turn it up to. You can hear the beat just crushing. And I'll turn it right underneath that. Right there. So the beefy part of the 808's right under the line. That's kind of what you want to aim for. Now, if you do want to get a little more distortion, like if you want to do like that crazy Kevin Carson beat that like has terrible mixing and mastering on purpose, go for it. You can turn this up more if you want, but try and you just play around with these two knobs, because this knob really changed the game for me. The saturation knob right here. So I was wondering why so many beats sounded so much punchier, a little more like colorful, like, oh man, just blended together a little more than my beats. And people were saying, use Soft Clipper, use all this stuff. But whenever I would gain stage and use Soft Clipper, I just couldn't figure it out. And I know that's ridiculous because it's like 3 knobs. I don't know. I couldn't just find that sound and that preset. And I kind of wondered, I was like, why do they have a saturation knob? So one day I just kind of turned it down a little bit, and let me just show you what, ooh, dang. Let me just show you what happens. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So whenever you turn this down, it kind of distorts, but not like harshly distorts. It'll kind of distort the peaks a bit. So it adds a lot of warmth, and it's like, I don't want to say soft distortion, but it doesn't just hard clip like the top where it's like crushing. This kind of just adds a little bit of distortion and a lot of warmth and color to the entire beat. And so this knob really changed my perspective on mixing and mastering. I really love this knob. And for more aggressive beats, I'll turn this knob down more and maybe the gain up a little bit to just get that crazy distortion. But for most beats, I just like to get a little bit of warmth in it, and it kind of blends all of the sounds together, in my opinion. So I just challenge you to not challenge, like you got to do it and get XP or anything. Like, I just suggest that you play with this knob a bit and just kind of mess around, see if you can find a little bit of a sound that you like. But yeah, I'll turn it down around like anywhere from like this much to like this much. I've done it before. It just depends on the beat. But since this is like a little more, it's like an undergroundy vibe, but it's not aggressive by any means, I'm just gonna turn it down to where there's a little bit of distortion and a lot of warmth in it, just to add that color. And then one thing I did notice a bit is that sometimes I'll be like, okay, that's good, like right here. But then you don't really notice it when you render it out for some reason. So I always do a little more than I think should, a little more than it should be, or turn it down a little more than I personally think. Like I'll be like, okay, that's good, a little more, you know, just to get that extra warmth. Because I tended to notice, kind of like with the drums to melody ratio thing, is that I just wouldn't have enough warmth or distortion in my beats when I rendered them out. So I just started pushing this down a little more, and it seemed to fix that issue. So yeah, I personally really like the sound of the saturation knob. You might not. It's all personal preference, but this is exactly what I do every time. And I got it down to like really quick. I get my mixing done really quick, but I'm trying to go really in depth for you here. Now, the last thing I do to my mix is, one thing I noticed is that the saturation will turn the overall volume down. So whereas it was cutting at 0, now it's not really close to 0. So you lose a bit of volume, and the way that I fix that, literally just push this master slider up until it's right under 0. And there, you got all your volume back. Easy as that. So that's the mixing mastering process. Now let's just get into arranging. I like to arrange in nice and neat blocks. I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and I'm gonna explain what this is. This is an intro, and this is a hook right here. Or this is going to be a hook, this is going to be a verse, and this is going to be a pre-hook, bridge, end of a verse, whatever you want to do. It just tones down before it picks back up. So I'm just going to do a super basic arrangement and show you kind of how you can mess around with different things. Firstly, you're going to have to pay attention to the actual melodic elements, first and foremost, in my opinion. It's not uncommon for me to arrange the melody and the drums separately. So like cutting out pieces like that and then coming down here and doing the same thing, which is kind of what I usually find myself doing. But you just got to pay attention to what is really catchy, what is something that you can switch up and shine, like make shine a little bit more. When should the counter come in and all that stuff. You kind of get a feeling depending on the melody. So we'll just see what we get here. I'm gonna just refresh my memory on what all the sounds are. Okay. So personally in the intro, I like to have a little more sounds to kind of grab the attention of the listener. So I'll either put in like the main melody or just most of the sounds in general. I'm gonna go ahead and do this just because I don't want this like little top line with delay to kind of be overused, and I might bring it in right here. We'll see, but I just don't want it hitting every 8-bar loop. I don't want it to be in there. And then in the intro, we can do, what if we take the counter out, introduce that a little later? That way it's just a super noticeable new element to bring back in later. I'm gonna leave the bass in, and then I'm going to have this main melody right here. Then the texture, I think I'll leave in. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so I like that. I like when the drums come in, let them shine a little bit. Take the melody down a little bit. Let the drums shine, man. They just came in. Why you gotta take their spotlight away? And then I like how it progresses to where the melody and the drums are big in the second part of the hook. Now in the verse, I do want to tone it down a bit. So I'm thinking, I definitely don't want this lead here. I don't want to overuse that lead. Since it's already repetitive, I don't want to overuse that at all. And I think in the pre-hook, I'm going to take this out, kind of like we did in the intro, to where it's fresh when it comes in on the hook. I like that. And I'm actually gonna leave this kind of how it is. It's the same as the intro. It doesn't always turn out that way, but sometimes it does. Who cares? And now in the verse, I do want to switch it up. I kind of want to tone it down a bit. Maybe take the harsh texture out. Actually, I kind of like that. So in the second half of the verse, it gets that edgy, kind of grungy texture in it, along with the counter. Why not? I kind of like it in the verse. You know what? I'll take it out. Actually, I'm taking it out. I'm overthinking it, and I'm taking it out. So it just basic melody, super smooth, super melodic. Then bring in the texture right here, and we'll even bring this in. How about that? We'll bring that in, and so then you get that little counter right there. Then it drops back down to being smooth, really smooth sounding, because in the hook it's gonna hit with the drums and the kind of grungy texture there. I think that'll be a nice transition. So now that the melody is arranged, let's go ahead and arrange drums. So what do we got here? We got a clap, hi-hat, counter snare, impact open hat, and a basic open hat. So usually I'll have all those simple drums in. So something like this for the hook. I'll just introduce the simple drums to get a basic rhythm going on. And then in the second half of the hook, where the melody picks up, the drums pick up as well. So I'll bring in the counter snare. I think I'm going to have the basic open hat in right from the get-go, and then we'll put the counter snare in later. Yeah. Into this. The change isn't too drastic. Because I want the change to be the focus, or the melody, the change in the melody to be the focus. There we go. The change in the melody to be the focus, that's what I want. So just adding a little counter snare will be like, oh, this has a little bit of a different bounce, but I can't put my finger on it right now because this melody's so darn cool, you know? And then for the verse, I'm going to tone it down a lot. I'm going to take out the open hats, or the impact open hats all the way through, and the basic open hats all the way through, and then kind of just do the same thing I did with the hook. Bring in the snare in the second 8 bars and have the super basic. Yeah. This gives the artist a lot of room, like a lot of room to hop on. And the verse is kind of where it's going to be a little more complex. So there they go. They got a lot of room to work on. So it's super toned down here. Then it picks up with just this right here. Still a lot of room, and I think this is going to do it for the basic arrangement. Now, after this point, what I usually do is you could do beat cuts and stuff. So maybe like right here, I'll cut all of the percussion except for the drums, just to help with transitions. Maybe I'll do the same thing with the bass right here. But I kind of like this. So maybe we'll do that on the second time around. And then maybe to introduce the drums, or the first verse, we could do something a little more fun. Kind of take out the first clap, then take out the hi-hats when the clap comes in, and reintroduce the hi-hats on the 808. And I think that flows really well with the melody. There's a lot of different simple ones you can do. And you can watch a lot of tutorials on different like beat cuts and different stuff. You can do like tape stops, slowed intros, slowed outros, reversed intros, reverse like little fills and stuff. That's a little more than I want to get into right now, because some of those are kind of in depth on their own. But beat cuts are gonna be your best friend. I don't do too crazy with the beat cuts though, because when an artist hops on it, if they give you the option to, I would suggest, offering like, hey, I can come through and do all the beat cuts where I think they would sound really good, and like add different arrangement effects under their voice, because once they get on it, you're gonna be able to hear, oh man, that would be hard if the beat just cut out and like it focused on the artist, because what they're saying right there is really, really gnarly, and it's gonna boom. I just don't go too crazy on the beat cuts, just because maybe it throws an artist off, maybe it throws a rhythm off. I just like to do it just to keep the beat interesting, and that's it. I don't like to make it like an EDM drop or anything. And you know what, maybe in the intro, cut that right there, and then have it shine through on the second half. So there we go. Something super simple like that as a basic arrangement. Then all I do is I highlight. Also, a good example of doing beat cuts after the artist already got on it. Okay, so the example that I was thinking of, I had to look it up because I did a couple songs on that same album and I get them mixed up sometimes with the names. It is called Parallax by Ep.3. Super good song. I produced that song. But I did like all these beat cuts, and I did like these little, like the reverse vocal effects that lead up into like a verse or like a phrase or a hook or whatever. If you go listen to the song, you can hear it. I did all that after he recorded. I asked him to send me the mixed vocals isolated, so that means just the vocals with all the effects on them, auto-tune, all that stuff can stay on them, just because you're editing the beat around the vocals. So if you get it placed, ask the artist, yo, can I do beat cuts under your vocals? Just send me the mixed vocals. That's all I need. I'll make it sound really cool, and the beat will flow so much better. The song entirely will flow so much better, and it'll sound just way more put together. I asked my sister between a song that I didn't do beat cuts for and a song I did do beat cuts for. This is a true story. This is not scripted. I asked her, I was like, which one do you like better? She was like, oh man, I don't know, but the second one, which was the one with beat cuts, she was like, that one just somehow flows a little better and it just sounds like more put together. And I was like, thank you. I love you, Lauren. If you're watching this, I love you. I love you, little sis. Even though she's older than me, I just call her little sis because I'm just better. Anyways, that is a true story. It just makes it sound more professional. And if you want to, another example is Fall in Love by Kiltech. I did beat cuts on that beat as well, and it turned out, dude, I love the beat. I love the song. I love the beat cuts. It just all came together so perfectly, and it literally leveled up the song. If you go and ask these artists that I did those beats for, if you ask them if the beat cuts like improved the song, I can almost guarantee they're gonna say yes, absolutely. That's the best producer that I've ever worked with, and I'll pay him whatever he wants. I love his beats. Maybe not all that, but but those songs, if you want to find them, the links for them are going to be on the Manifest Instagram. They're all there. Name, artist Instagram, my Instagram. Everything is credited appropriately, and all that stuff is on the Manifest. If you want to see all those placements, all that stuff. Manifest Instagram is going to be linked in the description below. All that stuff, you can check it out. Anyways, so then after that was a tangent on beat cuts for a fat minute. Oh my God. Okay, so then I highlight the hook, the verse, and the pre-hook, into the verse, whatever you want to call it. These little 5 8-bar loops, I highlight them, press Control B once, twice, boom. You got to finish the beat. Now, you could render it like this, leave it pretty bare bones for the artist, but for sometimes for the second verse, I'd like to keep the cuts even more simple, and sometimes I'll switch it up, but lately I've just been rendering it low-key, just kind of not overthinking it. But I think in this case, we'll just make it a lot simpler, and then have the 808 cut, or the bass cut out before the final hook. And then in the ending, you can fade it out, which is what I usually like to do. So I'll usually have a 16 bar ending and have it fade out the last 8 bars. And for that, I kind of just arrange it like something super simple, like it'll come out. Something super simple, nothing crazy. You're just winding down and then just reintroduce some elements that you want. So the outro is completely up to you. You can go fully melodic, put some drums in, put some beat cuts in, whatever. You can kind of play around with the outro and the intro a lot more than majority of the beat. In my opinion, the intro and outro can be the most fun to mess with, but just something simple like this. I have it fade out with the 8 bars though, because I used to do 16, and on Spotify it would take like forever for the song to fade out and then the next song to come on. And I found that you don't really notice the first 8 bars being the same volume and then it fading out the last 8 bars. You don't really notice that as much, and the transitions between songs is a lot smoother. So that's just what I do. 16 bar outro, fade out the last 8. You can have it stop without fading out and having it ring out. You can have it just stop suddenly. Like I said, the outro is kind of your playground. The outro and intro are kind of your playgrounds. The entire beat is your playground, but especially the outro and the intro. So we will leave it like this arrangement, pretty basic, nothing too crazy. And then just throw that little tag on there right here. And now I will say, since you're doing the tag last, or if you're following along, you're doing the tag last, it's gonna be really, really freaking loud if you leave it where it is on the mixer, because everything is turned down and turned up in the master. It's gonna be ridiculously loud. So I go ahead and I know that for my tag, if I turn it about a little above half, peak, it'll sound good. It'll be perfect. It'll be different for everyone's tag. Just kind of play with it, but turn it down for the love of God, turn it down. Oh my God. It'll be so loud. It'll hurt your ears. But yeah, that's it. That's all I do to mix and arrange a beat. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but I was going super in depth for you because I love you. Like I said, I can implement this mixing strategy in a couple minutes, in the arrangement as well. Like, once I'm locked in, bro, I'm like, boom, 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 beat cut, boom, boom, arrangement, boom, blocks, boom, all that stuff. I'm like, once I'm locked in, you can't stop me. And so you get it quick, you get it down to a system, and you can maybe make your own mixing system and mastering system, an arrangement system. You can just do whatever you want. But this is what I found works best for me. I've never seen anyone mix and master this way, though. Arrangement is kind of straightforward, at least in my opinion. It just kind of takes a little bit of practice knowing what the listener wants to hear and all that stuff. But I've never seen someone mix and master like I have before. So maybe it's a new trend. Maybe the new mixing and mastering meta is out now, 2024 mixing and mastering meta. Who knows? But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. I wanted to keep it pretty short. I didn't think it was gonna be this in depth, but oh well, it turned out to be pretty in depth and pretty informational as well. I really hope that you learned something new, and I really hope that this helps you out if you're struggling with mixing and mastering and arranging and all that stuff. Like I said, this was super requested, so if you guys have any more questions for me, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I will respond. Like, I'm just a dude. I respond to comments, I respond to DMs. Just DM me, email me, DM me the comment. It doesn't matter. If you have questions, ask me, and if I know the answer, I will help you out, bro. I do not be gatekeeping, bro. Ask anyone. I do not be gatekeeping. The only thing I do is looks maxing, and that's pretty apparent. I'm looking mighty fine today, if you might notice. But anyways, I've taken up enough of your time, but this is the finale for the making a beat from scratch in depth series. I really hope you enjoyed the series. Like I said, if you haven't watched the other videos, highly recommend you go watch those other videos. Start to finish, boom, 3 videos, and you can make stellar beats from scratch. And yeah, my Instagram is going to be linked in the description, so if you enjoy my content, be sure to hit that up. Keep up with me. I post a lot of just random stuff in there. Like, whenever I got my SpongeBob mug, I posted that on there because I thought it was cool. And people liked my story, so they thought it was cool too. Or they were in love with me. There's no in between. But yeah, go follow that if you want to just see just more stuff. Go follow the manifest page if you want to see those examples of those placements. They're all linked there, so you can just go straight to the song. You don't have to like look up like, who's Ep.3, who's Kiltech, you know, like, you don't have to do all that. Just, man, go to the link, follow those artists. First of all, follow those artists, listen to the beat cuts, take notes, always take notes, mental notes whenever you're listening to music. What can you improve on? Oh, they did a beat cut there. That might sound cool if I did that in one of my beats, you know, like if, oh wow, that mixing sounds really good. I wonder what they did. Maybe the hi-hats are a little louder than I usually do, so, but that actually sounds really good, so maybe I'll try that in my, like, mental notes, man. If you listen to music, which you probably do if you make music, if you listen to music, take notes of what you like and try to implement them. That's how you make your style. Not only by just making beats, by listening to beats, listening to artists, listening to different genre. Like, come on, man. I'm preaching, bro. Get me off this soapbox. This is ridiculous. It should go without saying. Take what you like, mental note it, try it out, try new things, try new genres, all that stuff. I'm getting sick of spitting straight heat, all right? I'm gonna head out. All the links that you need are in the description. Freaking... I'll see you guys in the next video, though, for sure.